whatever, and this thing will also be unlit alpha, and we'll give it the green color. Although probably I don't even know what fucking color it's going to be, honestly. So, aimer. Excellent. Let's name this thing aimer. And so what this is going to do is stick kind of on the player. If I can find the goddamn there. And then if we look at that, it'll, you know, shoot out of him. Very simple. What I'm going to do to it, though, actually, is actually change the scale back to 1 for this for now. And then I'm going to create an empty game object, which will actually be our aimer. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. This guy will be a child of it. Call it shape or whatever. Let's call it the visual. That's a nice convention I usually stick with. So if you look at this thing, the center of it is there, and this guy's there. So what we're going to want to do is move this thing up, say 0.5. Whoops, I got my directions wrong. Or I didn't, did I? What the crap? Oh, that's rotation. I'm retarded. Position. So position should be 0 in its parent. And then from there, 0.5. So now if you look, if I take the center of this object, whoops, and I rotate it, it rotates around, not the bottom. Alright, this is Unity doing its lovely trying to help thing. So if you look, as I rotate it, it's actually moving the position. That's because it's trying to rotate around the middle of the mesh rather than the middle of what the actual object is, because really the origin of this object is at the bottom because this thing's poking up. So if I rotate this within code, it will be fine. So I'm just going to not give a shit about you for now, and we'll stick with that. So the visual, oops, should have no rotation. Its position also should be 0 here. It's even worse than I thought. Okay, and the aimer, then it's a 0, 0 is the bottom center of this guy, which is just what we want. And let's make this a nicer, rounder number because I don't like having all these decimals. Great, we have our aimer. So let's make a prefab for the aimer. Excellent, put that in there, and we can just delete this out of our scene because there's just no reason to have it. So now the player is going to need a way to instantiate his own aimer. So let's go to the player and let's add in here public, just can be a game object, we don't care about types, aimer. Oh, fuck that, uppercase, aimer. So now what we'll do is actually call it aimer prefab, and then another thing we'll have is private game object, the actual aimer that we've instantiated. So again, when it starts, we're going to instantiate the aimer. Aimer equals object.instantiate aimer prefab as game object. We've created our aimer, and now we want the aimer's position to always be 0, local position, 0, and something I forgot to say, aimer.transform.parent equals this guy's transform. Yeah. So what this is saying, we're creating the aimer. Its position, its parent is me, and its position is 0 of my object. So if we do this right now, then what will happen, if we go into Unity and we go to the player prefab, he now wants to have an aimer. He doesn't have one, so let's give him one. Huzzah, let's press play. He has an aimer, and if you look, there it is. And it's got a visual and all that stuff. One thing I'm going to do to this visual real quick, I don't like that it's bigger than the player. Although the player really should be The player should have his own visuals. So let's do that right now. Let's find the player in the scene, and I'm going to change my mind and not do anything to this for now. I generally like to have the rootmost object have a size of 1, and then whatever the child thing is have a scale applied to it. So the visual itself has the scale, just like I did with the aimer here, scale 1. The visual is the one that's scaled. That's mainly because if I instantiate the thing, I don't want to have to know what scale to give it or whatever, that sort of thing. But this is fine for now. So we've got the aimer. Excellent. So one thing that's going to happen in our update is we're going to rotate the aimer. So what we're going to do then, let's just kill this. We don't really need this, probably. If we only take damage when we hit stuff, then dismodify health will handle that just fine. So if we have the aimer, we want to update, we want it to do this rotatey thing, so let's for now just say aimer.transform.local rotation. First thing, unity thing, let's get a vector3 rot.local rotation Euler angles. Let's call you aimer rotation. Take you and change your z. Let's put in a variable we can change here, public float, aimer rotation speed, and let's make that, this is going to be degrees per second, so let's make it like, it rotates all the way around every second. So, aimer rotation speed times time.delta time. This is a way of, the update is not a fixed time step, so we're reacting to that pretty much. And then set this guy back. Quaternion.Eulers. Aimer rotation. There we go. So, what should happen? The aimer should spin around. Press pray. Whee! Look at it go. It's counterclockwise, which I don't like. So let's just go into Mr. Player here and change this to the opposite direction, which is negative. Now we go in. We have a clockwise rotation of the aimer. One other thing you might notice. So this thing is appearing behind the trap because the trap is so far in the foreground. So that's something to consider. I mean, I could make the aimer like super freaking wide. No problem. That would be easy. I could do it right now to show you. Let's make the, what is it, the Z scale like 1,000. Did I, what? Oh, it's so far in the foreground that the camera no longer sees it because it has a cutoff. So let's try 10. 100. Too far. 50. 25. 25 is too far. 20. 20 works. There you go. Now it's in front of that thing. And then if you look, that's this stupidly massive guy, which basically just needs to be behind the camera, but in front of the black thing. So what I'm probably just going to do is reduce the size of the fire. So let's just not worry so much about that because it probably shouldn't break. So I'm just going to make it scale 1. F it. But we do want it to be really wide. And it's directly under those things. So one thing actually that I should be doing now is I should have a consistent Z that I want stuff to be on. These are all on negative, so I want everything to be at 0, of course. So let's just put all this stuff at 0. There we go. And then the main camera now doesn't matter because it's orthographic. It just goes into infinity. So it doesn't really matter how far it is from the camera. There we go. Excellent. We do not appear in front now because we're still not quite big enough. If you look at that, we're probably about the same size. So let's just go into the aimer and make the visual have a scale of 2. And then we play it. Wunderbars. There we go. Okay, so we have our little aimer guy. Now, we want the button pressing shit. So you could put the button pressing code in player, but that's pretty terrible practice. This is a game jam, so maybe I should do that. But I think I'll put it in game It'll be our first thing for game. I might even put it in like an input controller or some kind of crap, but you know, whatever. For now, I can always refactor later if this becomes an actual game. Public void update. I'm so tired of having to do this every time. I don't want all your shit. I don't want your stupid curly braces on the same stupid line. I don't want your space right there. I don't want any of that. Okay, game. What do we want, game? So, first thing we want probably is to determine who presses what. So, Unity has this nice thing here. Input. Oh, awesome, it didn't cut, never mind. So here's a bunch of shit that we don't care about. Horizontal, vertical, all this crap. We catered literally nothing. So let's just freaking size 0. Delete all that shit. And then make a 1. So I'm going to name this guy player 1. Actually, I'm going to start with a thing, and I'll just put a number afterwards. So positive dot 0, not position. When you type things so many times, like position, you keep accidentally typing them. Player 1's pressing positive. There you go. There is no positive or negative button, so fuck that. Actually, that might be handy. So, no, I'm not going to do that. Gravity, dead. I forget what gravity does, if I'm being honest. I don't think any of that matters. This is not an axis. This is a key. So, right. Positive button, A. There we go. So, let's start with that, make sure it works. We're looking for positive.0. Copy this. Go into here. Let's just make a private void process input. That'll be our function where we figure stuff out. So if input get key. I think, is this right? No, this is not right. What do I do? Get button, string button name. This wants a key code. Get access gives you a float. I think it's get button. This is what I want. So that'll do our thing when we press the button. So first thing, of course, we need, let's have an array of players. Which, there, players, that's correct. So I could drag the players into the scene, but I think I want to create them programmatically in case for some reason you have 3 players. In this game jam, it looks like you're never even allowed to have 3 players, but let's for now not do that. So we'll do this handy dandy thing where we just find them. So players equals game object dot find objects of a type of player as player. So this will search through the entire scene for every player and assign them right at the beginning. And I think I want this to be an awake, happen before anybody start. Awake happens before start, so this is a good thing to have right away. Now, in every update, we're going to process input, probably do other stuff, but for now we can just do that. So if positive 0 is pressed, then we want, and we should always do this just to be safe, even though theoretically we have a consistent amount of players and you always have at least 1. Let's do this anyway. If this is greater than or equal to 1. So if there's at least 1 player, and in fact I'm going to put this on the outside and put this on the inside. Huzzah. Then players 0 dot what? We want you to so this thing should shoot out a raycast, and it should search for the nearest thing it hits, apply a velocity if it hits that thing, and then if it's the opposite polarity, of course, or whatever, and then it should remove the aimer while you're holding it. So let's have an activation one. The question is, so this thing right now is basically going to just happen every single time. So probably what I want to do is not have it happen every time, and instead say activate polarity, and let's just put in a bool, positive. Okay, so this will shoot out a raycast and search for an opposite polarity. So if we go to the planets here, this is something we're obviously going to need, is positive polarity. And let's just set that to true. Great. And I hate using their things even though this is public, so I'm going to have a bool is positive polarity. And that will just return that. Even though I can theoretically, you're a bitch, give me this fucking variable, asshole. Even though I could just get it from this because it's public, I hate that. I shouldn't be making these goddamn things public. It's a weakness with Unity. So, if we have more than one player, and instead I want this to be get button down, so the button has just been pressed, activate polarity, true, because that's a positive button. And we're going to add into here public void deactivate polarity, positive. So that's going to add some things we need to put in here. We need to sorry. We need to know while we're activated. Let me think about this. So as long as we are activated of a certain polarity, which is as long as we're holding the button down for, we should be attracting to whatever the thing is that we're pointing at. So let's have a bool for polarity is active. Although, are we talking about a permanent polarity? So here's the thing. So if we have this game here, let's look at our mock-up again. So here's our player. He presses his button when he's pointing that way to attract to this. So he's making himself negative, this thing's positive, so he attracts to that. Now what happens if the player lets go of the button while he's here, say? So I was thinking it would be interesting if he then either loses polarity, so he becomes a neutral object, or he continues along whatever path you told him to, so it's kind of like a grappling hook in that way. You press it and then he goes, you press it and he goes, rather than needing to hold it. One reason for holding it is you can then like screw with other people better potentially. And also when you let go, that then probably activates this guy around here. Like you can then have your aimer moving again, because while you're holding it, your aimer will go nowhere and you'll continue along your path. And you'll stick on that wall too. So yeah, let's say that once you let go, you have a neutral polarity. But then that, of course, brings the question of what happens when this guy shoots at that guy in that case. If he's, not shoots at him, but is aiming in that direction, he's in his way. So if we have this situation again, and this guy's shooting there, then he normally would connect with that, but it wouldn't work because he's in his way and you get repelled backwards. But what if this guy is a neutral thing? So that's not what I wanted to do, but whatever. So he's neutral. What does this even do? So I think that everything in this game probably needs to have a constant polarity, except for maybe traps. Actually, traps might have a polarity too. That could be interesting. So if we have that case where everything has a polarity, then that means that means what? So for a player, when they press a button, they remain in that polarity, I guess, until they change it. And they are attracted to whatever but they're only attracted while they're holding that polarity button. So they continue their momentum. Okay, so So it's rather than polarity is active, this is attraction is active. And then we have